and welcome to the Friday Total Soccer Show. I am Daryl Grove, and I'm joined by a man who's hoping to match the goal-scoring streaks of Josie Altidore and Bradley Wright-Phillips. His name is Taylor Rockwell. Hello.
Hello. Seems unlikely, especially in podcast form.
And especially as you'll be playing defensive midfield probably this weekend for our street soccer team.
Also that, I wasn't really sure the context that you were going for, like in terms of MLS play,
no,
in terms
goals.
of our amateur league. Okay, I got you.
Amateur league goals.
Right on.
Who is in the best form? Is it Josie or Bradley Wright-Phillips? So we're going to be previewing Toronto, New York Red Bulls very soon on this episode. I know Josie's got 6 in 8 in MLS, and I don't know what Bradley Wright-Phillips is.
I think he has 5 and 5, or he scored in each of the last 5 games.
Oh, that's better.
Yeah, it's pretty decent. Better. They're both pretty good. Yeah.
All right, on today's show, we are going to preview that big MLS game this weekend. We're also going to look ahead to what else everybody else is watching this week. We're going to do some listener questions. We have 2 really good questions, one about FIFA 17, EA Sports FIFA 17, and we're going to have TSS Scouting Network reports. So, first of all, why did we choose Toronto New York Red Bulls?
Because it's on Big Fox.
It is on Big Fox.
I'm going to say it's also a big game.
It is. It's the top of the East. I think Toronto currently, 2 points clear of New York Red Bulls. If they win at home, Sunday, 5 o'clock Eastern, if they win at home, they go 5 points clear of New York. And I think they guarantee a playoff spot, which I think they've already, not mathematically guaranteed, but sort of basically guaranteed.
Exactly, yeah. And so, they've played each other twice already, both times at Red Bull Arena in Harrisburg, I think. Harrisonburg? Is that what it is? I always forget.
Harrison.
There you go. Harrison, New Jersey. No Berg.
Yeah.
That's my rule. Don't put a Berg on the end of your city. They did that. Good job by them. And Toronto won the first one 2-0, lost the second one 3-0. So this is the breaker. We'll see what happens here. Worth noting that New York have not won in Toronto since April of 2013. So could be tough. Could be tough for New York.
It's also interesting. I kind of love watching New York Red Bulls play because they have that sort of high-pressing style. It tends to make games exciting. There's the recent late collapses, so that makes the end of games exciting when New York Red Bulls are playing. Maybe not so much if you're a fan. And then Toronto, there's obviously Josie and there's Michael Bradley. It's worth watching as a US men's national team fan.
Yeah.
And for New York, Sasha Kleshton. Now, suddenly, US national team starting 11.
And in form, right? Scored the lovely chipped winner last night in the 91st minute.
In the Champions League. I think it was the 90th, I'm pretty sure.
Well, it was late anyway. The announcer said 90, and then the graphic said 90 plus 1.
So
I'm saying 91st.
I'd read 89 as well.
There we go. So there you go.
It was definitely late.
At some point late in the game, he scored a chipped goal with his left foot.
Do we think he meant it? Because I know first time we just watched it, right? And you said, I'm not sure he meant that.
I didn't think he meant it the first time I saw it. Upon watching it from a couple of different angles, I think so.
That's the genius of it, maybe, right?
Yeah.
Is it looks like an accident, but it's really a sneaky goal.
The ball's kind of behind him, and he does that kind of like reaching behind him with the left foot, and then it's like chipped across his body into the side netting on the far post. It's kind of the only way he could get a shot off is by doing that, and that's exactly what he does.
So we're going to get to specific predictions for this Toronto FC versus New York Red Bulls game. First up, is there any New York team news that we need to know?
Other than that, you've got Bradley Wright-Phillips, who's, as we said, in a bit of a hot streak. The big question, though, for this one, I think, is going to be whether or not Dax McCarty plays. He's returned from injury. It was expected he would play in that game against DC United, the aforementioned game when New York dropped a 2-goal lead.
Scratched somewhat close to kickoff, from what I understand.
I think the expectations are that he will start, but it's not entirely certain whether or not he's fully fit, if maybe he makes a cameo, or if he gets a second half appearance, or if he starts outright. So that'll be something to keep an eye on. I think he will start, though, just given that they could use him. All
right. And then on the Toronto side, Sebastian Giovinco, little Sebastian, listed as questionable. He's got that injury. I think it's an adductor strain. He's been out since late August. Some places are suggesting maybe he makes a surprise appearance in this game. I can't see him starting. The big question is who replaces him, who plays alongside Josie Altidore. Against Chicago, it was Tosaint Ricketts. He is now injured. So your 2 options are 2 Canadians. It's either Mo Babuli or Jordan Hamilton. So these are 2 very different players. Jordan Hamilton is like a 6'1" striker, I think 20 years old, kind of struggling to hit the goals that he was expected to be banging in. Whereas Mo Babuli is Lots of tricks, lots of step overs, but there's a lot of questions about whether he's got enough end product.
Yeah, it's a weird game, really, in that regard, because it's these two front-runner teams, but there's lots of question marks.
Yeah.
Those that you mentioned, Dax McCarty for New York. Then you've also got for New York, it's the center back, who'll be dealing with, I'm guessing, more likely Mo Babuli. Is that fair to say?
Well, Toronto FC on their own sort of MLS website had a projected starting 11, which I think is always interesting coming from the actual team. Had Babuli partnering Altidore.
Right.
And in some ways, I think that's a more direct replacement for Giovinco, right? If he's tricky and, has some unexpected... I've seen him do roulettes and have a few skills. Like, maybe he's a more direct replacement for Giovinco in that sense, whereas maybe Jordan Hamilton is a more direct replacement for Josie Altidore. Although only one of them is allowed to be in goal-scoring form at any one time.
Well, yeah, obviously. And so for New York... they're probably going to be starting Colin, as they do. Then the question is, do you start Zubar or Perenel? I think I always mispronounce
Having
that.
Having seen Zubar in action for Wolves,
yeah.
I start Perenel.
And I think it's another case of which one is less injured. My guess is going to be that they're going to start Perenel because he seems like the most capable player in terms of dealing with what Toronto will be offering in attack.
Okay, speaking of what Toronto will be offering in attack, behind what we think is going to be Babuli and Altidore. And Altidore, as we said, in form, we've seen him score back to goal, we've seen him score on the volley, we've seen him skip around goalkeepers. All kinds of goals for Josie Altidore right now, so be afraid, New York fans. In midfield... I'm
going to tell you why you shouldn't be afraid, New York fans, so don't worry about it.
Do you want to tell me now?
No, go ahead. No, because it's my specific prediction.
I see. In midfield, the last two games, Toronto have gone with a diamond. At the base of that diamond, it is Mr. Michael Bradley in the number 6 role. Ahead of him, as the two sort of shuttling central midfielders, you've got the hard workers of Marky Delgado and Will Johnson. Those guys get up and down and left and right. And then ahead of them, at the tip of the diamond, Jonathan Osorio, who for some reason cannot get a look at the Canadian national team, but is full of great passes, great through balls. It's really, to me, at least on paper and the few bits of footage that I've seen, it's a midfield that works.
So you mentioned, I'm curious about something. You mentioned Delgado. Though.
Yeah.
Is he who you expect to start in that midfield?
Well, he was until I read the news that Toronto are expected. Again, this is from that Toronto projected starting 11. Armando Cooper, the recent Panamanian. Yes, the recent
didn't realize that was a question.
Panamanian signing is maybe expected to start this game.
Yeah.
And if you've seen Cooper play for Panama, I've seen him play for Panama on the wings, sort of pacey, direct, and pacey. 2 paces in there because he's real quick. I don't know where he's going to play for Toronto because they don't really play with wingers. But if he's anywhere in the midfield, that I'm looking forward to seeing, like, if New York press, maybe Cooper burst through them with some pace.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to get at, is like if he's starting in that midfield diamond, does pacey and direct necessarily help them? Is that a situation that you need, or wouldn't you rather have somebody who can control the ball, pass through the middle, find Osorio who can then create opportunities?
Well, the suggestion was that also maybe he plays at the tip of the diamond and Osorio misses out.
Ooh,
yeah, so we shall see. Or maybe Cooper comes off the bench. We're not sure. This is another selection sort of... Not a headache. I guess it's good to have too many... the headache is missing Giovinco, right? Having too many midfielders is not a headache.
Not so much, no. So do you have a prediction with that in mind, or do you have other points to get to first?
Well, okay, how about this? My prediction is either Osorio or Cooper will have an assist. Are you going to let me get away with that?
It's pretty vague, I think. Why do you say either?
So I thought Osorio, I thought it was going to be Osorio, like slipping a through ball, because I think if Giovinco's missing, maybe more of the creative burden falls on Osorio. I really do love his eye for a through ball. So I was hoping maybe an Osorio through ball for Altidore to run onto behind that New York defence if they push high, right? But if it's Armando Cooper, I really do see him sort of New York send the press and he just bursts past someone and they're like, whoa, where'd this guy come from? You know what I mean?
I think I'll let you have it if it corresponds to that. Like, it can't just be Cooper hoofs a long ball in and then somebody runs on and scores. Okay. I don't think I'll give it to you then. I think it has to be Cooper with, like, the breakthrough run and then squares it, or Osorio, like, spots a gap and picks it out.
Oh, so either an Osorio, like, beauty of a through ball, or Cooper, burst of pace.
Yeah, or just something that corresponds to what you've said they both offer.
Leads to an assist. And one other thing I want to talk about with Osorio is Canada failed to make the Hex. He hasn't been selected by Benito Floro. There's obviously, it can't be a talent thing. There's obviously some personality clash or something behind the scenes we don't know about. So Floro's gone. He didn't, like, his contract's not re-upped. There's a chance for Osorio to catch the eye and restart his international career. And he can start that against New York at BMO Field, is it still called, I believe?
Yeah, that could happen, except that it's the other attacking midfielder that's going to get the credit. That's what I'm saying. That'd be Sasha Kleshtin. Yeah, I think so. So New York probably going to go into 4-2-3-1 with Grella, Kleshtin, Royer across as the attacking midfielders, I guess is what we've come to call those front three.
The band of three.
Those front three that aren't the front three, basically.
We should come up with a name for that, because in the 4-2-3-1 it gets weird to talk about, right? I want to call the Three Musketeers.
Terrible, but okay.
For any two, no?
Starting in the middle of those Three Musketeers, which I guess would make him Athos? I don't know who's the middle musketeer. D'Artagnan? No, I don't know if he's
the fourth guy, right?
Yeah, he's the fourth, yeah. So I forget. Anyway, I think it's going to be Kleshtin who is going to be directing. He's going to be doing the sword fighting. He is going to be doing the ball flying.
Just have the moustache.
See? It fits. It fits. But I think it's mostly just how informed he is, getting that call up to the U.S. national team, playing well for the U.S., scoring that late winner. I think it's going to be all about Kleshtin feeling the flow. And so I'm going to say that he will have better passing stats, and that's total completed passes, as well as a better passing percentage than Osorio.
Interesting.
That's what I'm picking out. Yeah. And then it will be interesting to see if it's Michael Bradley tasked with shutting down Sasha Kleshtin.
Yeah.
If that's more maybe Johnson, who has to drop a little bit deeper and keep an eye on the mustachioed musketeer.
I'd also say, if you're a US men's national team fan, as I think most people who listen to this show are, when people talk about how secure Bradley's US national team spot is, right? And he's captain, so it's secure. But it's interesting to me to watch him up against Dax McCarty, if he plays, and Sasha Kleshtin, and just to see if there is much of a difference in quality. I would have, not too long ago, I would have argued definitely Bradley is head and shoulders above all these players. But watching Kleshtin's recent performances makes me think maybe there's not such a big gap as we think. Yeah,
I think it's that Bradley he does such different things for club and country that it's tough to really see one of those things translate to the other team and back. Whereas Kleshtin, he was brought into the U.S. team for the first time in a while, obviously, but as an attacking midfield creative player. And Bradley kind of does a couple different things for the U.S. national team, and so it's tough to really be able to lock down he does this thing amazingly well. And so he does this okay, and he does this okay, and he does this okay, and Kleshtin does this thing very well. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. Except I would credit Bradley with sort of great big diagonal passes that are very effective.
But we'll see if Kleshtin hits some of those as well.
All right, anything else to say?
No, other than I'm excited to watch this game on regular Fox, which I do think is kind of a big deal.
This game in most localities is on Big Fox Network, and we'll be back unless this game's somehow terrible. We'll be back with a review of this game on Sunday 5:00 on Fox. And a little thank you to Roughneck Scarves. Their sponsorship of our MLS Roundup segments. It's what's led us to get sort of more into Major League Soccer. It's what got this game caught our eye. So thanks to Roughneck Scarves. If you want to support them, you can go to roughneckscarves.com, RUFFNECK scarves.com.
Nice.
They're the official scarf partner of MLS and US Soccer and USL.
Promo code
is Total Soccer Show, all one word, all uppercase, gets you 20% off at roughneckscarves.com.
So that is one game that's happening this weekend. There are many others.
We put the call out on Twitter. What are you watching this weekend? And we got some responses, which we've quickly collated, and we're going to share with you now. First up, TJ is watching Manchester United versus Watford. Can Man United bounce back?
Yep. Similarly, Evan Brady says, my Sunday league team win in the semifinals, hopefully, and the Man United versus Watford game before that.
Leo Novakovsky is watching Sac Republic versus Los Dos in the USL. Sacramento are looking to stay top of the Western Conference, guaranteeing home field advantage for the USL playoffs.
Yep. James Claceman is watching Orlando City v Columbus, which is an important game in Orlando's playoff battle.
Across the Atlantic, Alan Fraser is watching Dundee versus Aberdeen because I am a masochist, he says.
Sticking with that side of the world, Brian Dunning is watching Saints v Swans, hoping the positive result in the Europa match against Sparta carries over to Sunday's match because they need 3 points.
Chris Naples is watching Seattle v Vancouver because Cascadia is always fun and playoff implications.
Amaris Cervantes is watching Borussia Mönchengladbach versus Werder Bremen because you've got F. Joe versus R. Joe. Although I think he has F. Joe versus A. Joe. But either way, it works.
Going for the symmetry. But it's Fabian Johnson versus Aaron Johansson in the Bundesliga. Always worth a watch. Tyler Nelson is watching NYCFC versus FC Dallas. Dallas resumes their Supporters Shield campaign. #treble. Lots of MLS being watched this weekend.
Lots of local soccer as well. We've got local league and we've got Michael Hartman. I'm watching my son's high school team play in an out-of-town town tournament.
Oh, Michael, you should have told us the name of the team.
Yep.
Go Michael's son's high school team.
Yeah, that should do it.
Patrick Malloy is watching Barcelona versus Leganés because apparently battles against newly promoted teams are always interesting.
I feel like that might not be much of a battle.
Well, Alaves was a battle.
Yeah, there you go.
A battle they lost.
Who knows these things? You're right.
All right, Taylor, we have a couple of questions from Total Soccer Show listeners.
That we do.
First up, we have a question from Ira Jersey. Ira Jersey wants to know about college soccer. Are you ready for this question?
I believe.
Ira says, we've seen a number of players forego higher education recently in favour of pursuing a career in soccer or dropping out of school to enter the MLS draft after stellar collegiate seasons. For example, Jordan Morris, Stanford, and Derek Etienne, UVA, now in Major League Soccer. With the rise of development academies, professional teams having academies, and even European scouts coming to the US to recruit young talent, is the quality of collegiate soccer likely to suffer even more? Or is there a way to change the system to allow players to get experience in soccer and an education?
Mm-hmm. Well, first things first, we put out a call to Travis Clark, friend of the show, of Top Drawer Soccer fame. He responded that college soccer obviously takes a hit with those developments, especially with a lot of the players who are turning pro being more attacking and more creative. However, Travis says plenty of players from Europe and elsewhere are coming to the U.S. to play. Look no further than our local Virginia Commonwealth roster, where you have lots of different internationals in there.
There's some French players, some players from Barcelona,
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look at the Richmond Kickers, our local USL team's roster. A lot of ECU players from a lot of different countries as well.
So Travis is saying that like the talent drain isn't so bad because it's not as if the level necessarily goes down because it's replaced by kids coming over here.
Right.
Taking our roster spots.
Yeah. Well, it seems like maybe it's flipped a little bit, where I remember growing up, it was always that like the United States was too reliant on the college system, that it didn't work the way it does in other sports because in other countries and other leagues, you don't have the college system.
College is the only option, right?
You have players going pro at 17 and 18.
Yeah.
That doesn't really work for here in the United States. And so now you have players who are kind of going that European route of turning pro at 18, not worrying about college. But then you have people from other countries who do want to go to college coming here to play and attend university.
Yeah, and I think the advantage, if you're in Europe, I think if you're going to come over to the US for an education, it's really expensive. But if you can get a scholarship to a US university, you're sort of basically getting a free education for your soccer skills. And that's, to be honest, that is how I see the future of college soccer. I'm not an expert in college soccer by any means. I don't know much about the collegiate sports system, but it seems to me as the US gets like more savvy with development, the better players are going to skip college altogether, or maybe just play 1 or 2 years, like Morris did, like Etienne did, right? But it'll still be there as a system, essentially for people to have enough skill and talent not to go professional, but enough to make their lives better by getting themselves a scholarship.
Yeah. But in terms of like reforms that they can actually make, that the NCAA can actually make to incentivize staying in school, I think there's really not much, because with basketball or with the NFL, you can make it so like, oh, you have to stay there for 1 year. Okay, now you have to stay there for 2 years. Now you
they
have
do this to like
that.
LeBron when he's coming through would have to play college but would leave early.
Well, he didn't. That was
he
when
the
the rules
first kid to
changed.
leave?
Yeah, no, he was one of many who I think didn't go. Kobe Bryant didn't go to college. He went straight to the NBA. I think.
Kobe went to Europe, didn't he? Wasn't that part of the story? That's like,
I think
how he picked up
well,
Italian.
isn't his dad played in Europe? That's why he speaks Italian or whatever it is.
I really don't know.
Something like that.
Someone's going to tweet us furiously.
Yeah,
right now.
almost certainly. But regardless, so then they made that change. So now you have to play 1 year, which is why you have a lot of one and done universities kind of popping up. But with those, that's because the major, like the world's biggest league is the league that can determine that.
Yeah.
It's the NBA or the NFL. If MLS were to say, well, no, you have to play 2 years of college soccer before you can come to the league, then they'd be like, all right, going to play elsewhere. Thanks for the opportunity. So you can't really make that change because you
call
have...
up Schalke U19s like
exactly. You have so much competition out there that you can't really do much. So Travis did say one thing they are maybe thinking about doing is making it from like a single season, because a lot of times college sports, you have soccer and football, for example, in the fall, different sports in the spring. They're toying with the idea of maybe making the soccer season all year round.
How does that help?
I guess because maybe it then stretches things out so you have more time to attend class. I guess the idea being that you don't have to cram in a bunch of different games, a bunch of different tournaments, and then the final tournament at the end of the season where you're missing tons of class, you're missing tons of school. And so then once that first season is done, you're either like way behind and struggling to catch up, or it sort of is like, yeah, all right, I've played my one season, now I'm going to go elsewhere.
Isn't another way to do this is, right, say someone like Morris, say if something happens and he gets some terrible injury and his career goes down, I would like to see, and I don't know if they do this, like he was at Stanford, right? So I would love to see universities say, all right, you sort of served our university well, even for that 1 or 2 years you were here. We guarantee to let you finish your education, and we'll fund or we'll give you a scholarship to see out your education. Like I'm kind of concerned by the thing of, we'll let you come to school for free or on a scholarship, provided you are performing athletically for us. I feel like maybe they need to just sweeten the deal a little bit, like to give athletes the chance to leave the collegiate system and seek their fortune, but also say, okay, but when you come back, we'll welcome you back, even if you didn't play 4 years.
Yeah, that's possible.
It's unnecessarily generous, but why not be unnecessarily generous, right?
Because of...
I mean, Stanford has enough money.
Because of economy? I mean, does a university ever have enough money? Because I feel like
they would say no.
There's always teachers to not be paid more so that you can build a better athletic facility. I think that's... You've always got that going on.
The only thing I'll cover with there is it's adjunct professors to not be paid more.
Excuse me, I apologize.
So you can build a better athletic
facility. Of course.
In Ira's email, which actually the original email was longer than the question, he mentioned a partnership with Southern New Hampshire University, which apparently has a partnership with Major League Soccer, where they let sort of people take online classes at reduced prices. So there's the beginnings of some sort of sports education partnership.
I was like, for a second, that sounded generous, and it's like, oh wait, so they let players use the services that they already offer? Like, it's not like they're like bending over backwards, but at a discounted rate. I gotcha. Yeah. They have a promo code MLS. You get 20% off.
Promo code Total Soccer Show. 20%. All right, we have another question today, Taylor.
Yep.
From Sloan Cherry. Sloan says, with FIFA 17 soon coming out, could you guys do a US men's national team player rating prediction? The answer is yes.
Yep.
Although I can't say that I'm too savvy with...
Yeah, we're about to get a lot of furious typing into keyboards.
With FIFA. I mean, I played FIFA 16, but maybe I played 10 games. I don't own a console system.
Yeah, nor do I.
You don't either? You used to, right?
I used to, and then I went abroad and I tried to pack it in my luggage, and my wife was like, or you could pack clothing and useful things instead of an Xbox. It's like, fine, fair point. So yeah, since then I have not played.
But I looked into this because the EA Sports released sort of the top 50 players and their ratings. So basically for each player you get a rating for pace, for their shot, for their passing, their dribbling, their defending, their physicality, an overall rating, and then they get a rating for their weak foot and for their work rate. So I've got Messi's stats in front of me because he's the number one player.
Yeah, they're decent.
On EA Sports, FIFA 17. I'm going to ask you, Taylor, what do you think DeAndre Yedlin's pace is out of 100?
Okay, so we have no U.S. players in the top 50, correct? So that means we couldn't find anything for sure. So we're just kind of guessing, and we'll see what happens.
should have been there.
So Messi's is an 89.
Messi's pace, yeah.
And I have a feeling that what they will do is make Yedlin super fast, but not very good in a lot of other categories. So I'm going to say he's going to be faster than Messi. I'm going to say he's going to have like a 90 or 91.
I agree. It may be higher. I think maybe he's got to be one of the fastest players out there, right? And I know they never go to 100, but I'm saying like 94.
I don't know, because as we talked about earlier with Cooper, like pace kind of loses all meaning because everyone's really fast. And so you definitely have those players where you can sort of see like, oh wow, he had those 5 steps on that one guy who had 1 step. But I think a lot of people are real fast. So he probably won't go to like that max of like the 96, which seems to be about the highest level you go.
Yeah, Messi's dribbling is 96. And
exactly.
I can't imagine a better dribbler than Messi.
No, so I can't imagine that they're going to go much higher than that. So maybe he'll be like a 92 speed.
Okay. What will DeAndre Yedlin's passing stats be?
Bad. That's what I'm saying is, and I'm not saying like because he is bad at passing. I mean, it's not his strongest suit. Yeah. But what I feel like they tend to do, or at least used to do, is make it so that a player like Yedlin would be really appealing for specific reasons, but not for others.
Right.
So if you are trying to, and I think they're trying to make the game more realistic. So if you want to have the pacey fullback who can get forward and cross the ball, maybe you go Yedlin. But if you're trying to have a possession-based team, it de-incentivizes him. So I think,
what's the number?
Like 72 would be my guess.
That's generous.
Maybe even lower than that, like 66.
I think that's more like it.
Yeah, because even 72 is still pretty high. Because I think Americans in the game, like I think the highest ones are usually like Dempsey and Bradley, and they're usually like low 80s.
Right.
And most American players are in like the 77, 78 range.
Okay. You got any for me?
Oh, yeah, I got a bunch for you.
Oh, okay.
And they're all over the place. So you have Messi's stats to compare with. What is going to be Jordan Morris's weak foot?
So they do it out of 5 stars, right? Messi got 4 out of 5 stars for his right foot, which is his weak foot. Jordan Morris's rating for his weak foot should be 0 out of 5 stars because he never ever uses it.
It should be, but it won't be.
It's going to be more like 1 or 2.
It'll probably be 1 or 2. Yeah.
I'd also say maybe EA Sports don't research Jordan Morris as heavily as they research Leo Messi. So maybe 2 stars.
I did kind of wonder that because I've heard like on different podcasts talking about gambling. It's a great
question though, by the way.
I think it was specifically Bill Simmons was talking about how people really could make a lot of money betting on like college basketball, like the lower tier, the lower conferences, because no one really watches them who makes the betting odds. So it's usually like, 10 is the spread. And I do wonder if maybe some players will benefit by EA Sports looking across the pond and then being like, oh, right, MLS. He's probably pretty good. 2. He made the U.S. team. So I'm going to say 1.5 would be my guess.
What will his shooting be?
Oh, okay. So I'm looking at Messi as a 90.
Yeah.
78.
That's still high, but for a young player. But all right, if it is, I'll be happy.
All right, what is going to be Jermaine Jones's physical stat? So
110.
Messi's a 61 by comparison.
Jermaine Jones' physical stat would just be a fist emoji.
What about? And this one I know is near and dear to your heart. Darlington Nagbe's passing stats.
It should be high. If they're paying attention, it should be high.
Yeah. So if we go with Yedlin being a 66.
But it's weird, right? Because when you think of Darlington
I'm dropping Yedlin down again. He might be 62 at this point.
When you think of Nagbe's passing, it's not so much about like incredible technique. You don't really see him splitting defenses with an Andrea Pirlo pass, right?
Yeah.
Picture it, you can't, right?
Did you just call him Andrea?
Yeah. Not deliberately, sorry.
Is that his twin sister?
But what I'm really thinking of is Nagbe is more just plays the smart possession ball every time, which is actually a kind of simple ball, right? So in terms of technique, I don't think he's going to have like any glamorous passing stats. I think Darlington Nagbe's passing is going to be unfairly 70.
Okay. I wish that entire explanation were in the passing stat. Like instead of a number, it was just your like, well, really, he doesn't do that many long passes or split that many defenses the way Andrea Pirlo does. I hope they put that one in there. Another one I had.
I'm not going to live that down. Am I?
Nope. Another one I had for you: Christian Pulisic's dribbling.
I was going to ask you that same thing,
and I beat you to it.
It should be good. It should be good. He's only 17 though, and I know that don't your stats improve over time? So they can't start him too high because then he's going to go off the charts, right? And so I'm going to say like 79, 80 to begin.
Ooh, okay. Because here's the thing that I don't know, and this is where having not played in a very long time hurts me, because it used to be a frustrating trend in FIFA that even if it was like Marcus Rashford, who had a breakout season last year and then had a decent Euro in the sense that he was the one England player who I think people said did good things, continues to be doing good things.
5 minutes.
Yeah, but that's enough in that team. But then, like, I feel like historically he would come in and for his first like real year of FIFA would still be like a 64 because he's so young that they want him to. But he has like he used to be like growth, like you had like potential growth, and he'd have a really high potential growth where if you played him, he'd shoot up.
I think that's where Pulisic is.
And I think that's the same thing. Yeah. So I bet his stats are going to be underwhelming,
frustratingly low.
Yeah, exactly. So I'd say like more so for his dribbling. If Messi's a 96, I wouldn't be surprised if he's like a 70 or a 69 or even lower.
I got an interesting one for you.
He being Pulisic, by the way, not Messi.
John Brooks.
Yep.
What is his defending stat and what is his physical stat?
See, this is where Messi's stats don't really help me because I'm looking
Messi's
at his
defending is 26.
And his so you asked me his defending and his
physical. Because obviously John Brooks is a big guy, but also seems to me a smart defender who gets there first.
See, but it's shaded by the fact that he's currently nursing an injury and has had to miss some time here and there with injury.
And he plays for Hertha Berlin, right? It doesn't play for a big glamorous team, and I wonder if they sort of weight the better stats for the players on the bigger teams, right?
Yeah. But I think he probably will be one of the more highly rated Americans. So I'm going to say...
He's a great Copa America, right? He really caught the eye as a solid defender in Copa America.
So I'll say 77 defending, and I'll say 75 for physical.
Okay.
It also sounds weird to say for physical as opposed to like physically gifted stat. I don't know.
It might be physicality, maybe.
It should be, but they haven't written as physical.
To me, Messi's physical... Well, actually, no, this was my sort of transcribing of what I saw on the screen, so it could be wrong. I think it was just
so you're just a liar. Gotcha.
It was like PHYS, you know what I mean?
Okay.
So I extrapolated from there. Messi's is 61, which I think is not cool.
Nope.
Because he is square. He's a big square muscle, and that's part of the reason you can't knock him down.
He also gets kicked 4,000 times a game and yet continues to play every single game. So I think he's pretty durable. That 61 might be a bit unfair. But you've got to do something, because otherwise he's a perfect player.
Yeah. I've got one final question for you before we move on. Fabian Johnson, who we've discussed recently, what is his defensive work rate?
Bad.
Basically low, medium, or high?
I guess they'll probably give a medium, but it probably should be low.
It's harsh, right?
Well, but I think it's because I'm thinking about it from like a U.S. perspective, where I think it probably should be low because I don't want him to be a defensive player. But he does sometimes do that for Gladbach, and he does sometimes have to track back, and then he does have to do it with the U.S.
And we talked about that Man City goal, right, where he sort of lost collar off.
So I feel like they'll hedge and put him at medium. But I do think he'll be one of the better rated players in this game for the U.S. That is me.
Yeah, that makes sense. He's a Champions League Bundesliga player.
Yeah, well, because I looked at some of the 2016 players, like where their standings were, and I think it was Dempsey was the highest ranked American, then Michael Bradley, and then I think Tim Howard. I think Tim Howard might have been the only other one who was an 80 as like your starting level.
Yeah,
and I bet that drops. I bet Tim Howard drops because he's a year older and he's not playing in the Premier League. Same thing with a few other players who've moved and gotten a year older, and I bet Fabian Johnson improves because he is starting on a Champions League team.
I've weirdly enjoyed this little debate. Thank you, Sloan Cherry, for asking this question. I guess we'll find out how correct we were when the FIFA 17 stats come out. We
really might be in trouble with this episode because, I think people who are diehard FIFA players are listening to us and being like, there's no way he's that. And now we're getting another series of banging on keyboards and on Twitter.
And that's not how you pronounce Pirlo's name.
Yeah.
Final segment on today's show. We turn to the Total Soccer Show Scouting Network. Reports are coming in. We have 3 for you today. These are the best young players from around the world that our listeners are keeping track of. Who's up first, Taylor?
Jay Glenn, who's scouting Ruben Neves of FC Porto.
I'm excited about Ruben Neves, the bits I've seen.
Well, prepare to temper those expectations. Neves has only played in 2 of Porto's league matches this season and hasn't made it into any of the club's 3 Champions League games. He is consistently in the squad, but is finding hard to get playing time since Lopetegui, I think is how you pronounce that one, left to manage Spain.
Okay. Okay, we have maybe a more impressive report from Juan Carlos Salas about Mallory Pugh. I haven't read it yet, so I'm hoping it's more impressive. US Soccer press release confirmed that Mallory would no longer join the senior team for the friendly against the Netherlands. She was initially scheduled to leave the U20s to participate, but will instead stay in California and continue to recover from the ankle injury she picked up at the Olympic Games. Okay, so it sounds like Mallory Pugh, nursing an injury, is staying with the U20s in preparation for the U20 World Cup later this year.
Yep. Final scouting report comes from Olaf Danelius, scouting Erdal Rakip, the midfielder of Malmo FF, Malmo in the Swedish league. Rakip is number 4 on Malmo's central midfield depth chart, but has been getting minutes at right midfield instead. Some minutes, not a whole lot. The better news is that he was in Sweden's U21 side that tied both Croatia and Spain. That team is very likely to qualify for the U21 Euros this coming summer, where they will get to defend their crown, and it looks like Erdal Rakip will be amongst that squad.
All right, thank you to everybody who sent in TSS Scouting Reports. Again, if you'd like to support the Total Soccer Show, join the Scouting Network. You can do so at totalsoccershow.com/subscribe. If you look in the show notes for this podcast, you will find that link, and then you will help us to keep TSS going 5 days a week.
It's true.
It's true.
It's true as fact.
Taylor Rockwell, once again, I've enjoyed talking to you for the final time this week.
That sounded so like we're on a hot streak, as though there are periods where you're just like, I can't stand it for 3 days. But now it's like the win and loss thing that they do. With like they're on a hot streak. They've won 5. It's like, I've enjoyed talking to you for 5 days. Good job.
I'm just saying it's been fun shows this week.
Yeah,
I really have enjoyed it. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Right back at you, buddy.
Listeners, thank you for listening. We'll be back on Monday with a review of Toronto FC versus New York Red Bulls, as well as all the other action from the weekend.